The next thing we're going to go over for laser cutting is how to set up layers and a little bit of the sort of theories behind why we set up layers in certain ways. So before we get going on this, what I want to do is navigate over to the UB Architecture and Planning homepage. Then you can go to About, and then under this Create and Leading Edge Facilities, go to Fabrication Workshop. Then you're going to go to Tools and Resources, and then Laser Cutting. And there's going to be quite a bit of useful information here that you can use to help you set up files. So we have power and speed, which we'll get into a little bit later. But cut order settings are what I want to look at now. So if we look here at Autocad Cut Order and Rhino Cut Order, this is the order that lines are going to cut in based on their color. So first we're going to have black and white cut, then red, then green, yellow, blue, and so on. Now, we don't recommend that you set up anything on your black layer. We really only want to set up our bounding box on the black layer. And then we also try to stay away from yellow. The reason for that being we preview things on a white screen, and the yellow lines are very, very, very difficult to see. So let's go back to our AutoCAD file, and we're going to talk a little bit about why we're going to use layers in certain ways. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to set up a bunch of layers that are going to register the different colors. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 colors. You don't have to use all of the colors in your file, but I'm just going to show sort of how you use them and why. So this is going to be our red layer. Important here, if you're adding new layers, make sure that the print is on. By default, if you add layers after a layer that is non-printing, it's going to also default to non-printing. So when we go to select a color, we're going to make sure that we're selecting only from these index colors down here. You can't go to true color and just say, oh, that looks like red. You also can't go to the color books. It has to be the index color. This color is not the same color as this color, so you have to be very careful about this. When you click that, it should pop up and it should say red there. The difference being if you click that, it's going to pop up with a number. So it must say red next to it. Really important here, if you import a file from Rhino that is using the red layer in Rhino, the red in Rhino is not the same as the red in AutoCAD, so you will have to change the color of your layer. So let's go in here, we want to do green, yellow, blue. So we'll do green, yellow, blue, and then magenta and cyan. So magenta and cyan. So now whatever lines you set up are going to be cut in this order. So white or black first, red, green, yellow, blue, magenta, cyan. I'm going to say do not use this yellow layer, so let's just write do not use. And now we're going to go into setting up a file and why you use different layering in different areas. So let's say I have this, and then I also have some text. Specify height. Okay, so I have some holes I want to cut out of here. Alright, so I have, this is the boundary of my material, and then these are the pieces that I want to cut. So I want to cut some holes out, I want to etch in the name test1, I want to cut this out, and I also want to cut this out. So here what we're going to do is we're going to recommend that you run all of your etching first. Actually, let's say we want to etch this and etch this, we'll cut these holes out and we'll cut this. So we want to run all of our etching first. So what we're going to do here is we're going to set this guy to be red. That way, so if we leave this file alone as is, all of our black would cut first, and then our red would cut. So what we're going to do here is we want that etching. Let's say we want this etching to be different, a different tone than we want this etching to be. So let's go in and we'll set this to be our next layer, so our green layer. Then we want to cut out the holes, and then we want to cut our profile. So the reason that we're setting it up like this is we want all of our etching to run first. So we want these guys to run first. Then we want to do any cuts that are inside of our outermost profile. So if we were to run this profile first, what could happen is this material could actually fall out, and it could move slightly. So if we cut these holes first before we cut this profile, we guarantee that we're going to get the most precise cut that we can possibly get. So this is how you're going to want to order your layers. You can use as few as one layer. So let's say my file doesn't look like this, and I only want to run 2 rectangles here. So what we can do is we can set both of those to red, and then they would both cut out on the same layer. You do not need to use more than one unless you're doing something where you have a bunch of nested parts, or a mix between etching and cutting or something like that.